Assalamualaikum. Assalamualaikum and thank you so much for tuning in. It took a couple assalamualaikums to get here. Alhamdulillah, we're here now, and we are broadcasting to you live from the basement of the university in the beautiful booth that is known as the station of CJM 99.1 FM, broadcasting to you live right here every single Friday morning. It is that time of the year, really, where we need your support and we need your pledges, and it's extremely important for you to give us your money. I couldn't say it any more bluntly, really, but to ensure programs like the Islam Dunk Show are constantly being put on the air and are constantly given the opportunity to speak to the world, it's extremely important that you do show your support and you do make a pledge. There's many ways to make a pledge. You can go to the website cjm.ca and you can make a pledge there. They have many different prizes. For those wondering what the prizes are, for $20, if you give the donation or contribute $20, allows donors to go into the music CD store at CJM and pick out a music prize from our rooms of music incentives. Alternately, some hosts have created music giveaways for listeners, so check with your favorite show. It's extremely important to donate to support CJM, as it is a university program radio show. We don't have the commercials and we don't have all the advertising that would make us to be a multi-million-dollar radio show. So it's extremely, extremely, extremely important that you do contribute. If you do like CJM, if you don't like Islam Dunk Show, a way of showing your support and adoration for the show is to make a contribution. If you'd like, you can actually call me up and make a contribution right here on the telephone. The number to call would be 519-971-3630. Again, that number to call would be 519-971-3630 to make a contribution. You can pledge anywhere between 20, 50, 100, and any other amount. But again, we do very, 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 very highly suggest, request, and ask that you do make a contribution. And that is what I wanted to share with you today in regards to making that contribution. And I do hope that you do make that contribution and go on to the CJM website. When you go to cjm.ca, you'll find a link that says donate to CJM. You just can click on there and donate using PayPal. That's always the best and easiest way to do so. So you would then click on there, and then it'll ask you for the donation amount. So you put whatever amount you want, and it'll then ask you for your billing information. And if you already have a CJM account, then it's even easier. And then you just you log into your PayPal account, put it in there, boom, you're all done, and everybody's very happy. And then the Slam Dunk Show is obviously happy because now it can stay on the air for a little bit longer. So these contributions are extremely important, and I urge you all, every single one of you listening, every single one of you streaming, every single one of you that is Facebooking this or YouTubing this, to please make this contribution. And we can only be extremely grateful. Now, for today's show, for today's episode, I want to talk about something briefly. It's part of some ideas that I was tossing around the other day after sitting with some amazing brothers and discussing some things. I thought of this hadith, and it's a very, very, very common hadith, very famous hadith of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, one of his very famous sayings. And even in the university halaqah that we have here on campus, it was also discussed. And of the 7 who are in Allah's shade, subhanahu wa ta'ala, on the day of judgment, gives us guidance as to important milestones and the markers for our spiritual development. And these goals should be sought in one's development. Now, for those unfamiliar with the hadith, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that there are 7 whom Allah will shade in His shade on the day when there is no shade except His shade. A just ruler, a youth who grew up in the worship of Allah, the mighty and majestic, a man whose heart is attached to the mosques, 2 men who love each other for Allah's sake, meeting for that and parting upon that, a man who was called by a woman of beauty and position, but he says, I fear Allah, a man who gives in charity and hides it, such that his left hand does not know what his right hand gives in charity, and a man who remembered Allah in private, and so his eyes shed tears. And ultimately there are 7 things that are mentioned in this narration, in this hadith. The first is a just ruler. The second is a youth who grows up in the worship of Allah. The third is a man whose heart is attached to the mosques. The fourth is 2 people who love one another for the sake of Allah. The fifth one, someone who resists a direct temptation from the opposite gender. Sixth, a person who is completely selfless in charity. And 7, a person who remembers Allah in private and sheds tears in doing so. So these 7 characteristics, or these 7 types of people, will be under the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when there is no shade. And when you look at these characteristics and you look at this description, and you look at it from a unique perspective, and from a more deeper perspective, from a perspective of that somebody that's asking questions, from a perspective of someone that's constantly thinking, these 7 things all relate to serious developmental goals that should be sought throughout our own personal development and our efforts to help other people in their own growth. Now, when you look at the first ones, and you try and make this into some sort of practical methodology, a way that you as a human being can develop yourself, the way you as a human being can really improve your own quality of life. The first and most important thing to acknowledge is to have taqwa. And taqwa can loosely be translated as God consciousness, in a way that one deals with power, right? The just ruler. And being in a position of authority in Islam is a responsibility that one is held accountable for, and is a very, very serious. And part of that is that our base selves often push us to take advantage of our positions of authority and abuse our power at the expense of others. And this is a serious developmental flaw, because it shows irresponsibility and ultimately a lack of taqwa, or a lack of God consciousness. And we all have varying situations throughout our lives when we are in a position of authority and we have such power. We have to look critically at ourselves and hope that Allah gives us good friends who help keep us in line. And the developmental lessons here is in learning to act responsibly with power, right? And it's not just, a ruler is just anybody in a position of leadership, whatever that leadership may be, whether you're the head of the MSA, or you're head of a subcommittee, or you're the leader of a family, or you're the older brother or the older sister. The minute you have a responsibility over others is the minute you need to be aware of your ability to oppress, your ability to take advantage of people, and really study that and be aware of that and really analyze that carefully. The second is a special kind of person that you meet every now and then, and they are just good and always have been. And these people are truly special because their consistency in worship draws them closer to the fitrah, or the natural state of being. And you can feel their goodness in their interactions and see their genuineness in the details of their behavior. And most of us were not raised this way, but that does not mean that we cannot renew our commitment to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is something that we can do at any time by asking His forgiveness and starting fresh. And this developmental point is about being consistent in our servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? The youth who grows up in the worship. And for those that have already grown up, for those that are already adults, for those that are already in university, perhaps, as a youth in Islam, the good news is you're classified as a youth until you're the age of 40. So you're okay. You're still a youth. So you can always fix this and adjust this, and then inshallah, when you're married and have children, you can try to teach them the value and benefits of loving Allah and of being in the masajid. The fourth is two people that love each other for the sake of Allah. And there are many reasons why we would care for someone in this life. And sometimes those reasons are selfish, and sometimes they are selfless. And the one who loves solely for Allah's sake is selfless in their love. And this is a kind of training of the heart that all seekers of the divine must truly experience. They must learn to purify their relationships with others and focus them on the ultimate goal, the pleasure of Allah. And this developmental point is essentially learning how to love properly and for the right reasons. Right? And it's, again, we're saying that these are all things that are extremely important to achieve, that these are things that are not necessarily the most intrinsic things to do. And these are most likely some of the most difficult things for a human being to do. But the reward or the outcome of understanding this balance and of obtaining this balance and really, limiting your desires to this extent really only ends in the best of ways. One more before we take a quick break is the fifth is someone who is called to fulfill their sexual desires in an unlawful way and resists. And this is mentioned as a major trial that can afflict a person, and as such the reward for passing it is undoubtedly paradise. And the person who is able to resist such a temptation is someone who has a strong control over their self and a clear awareness of God subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the developmental lesson is in learning to resist immediate temptation is a favor of a greater reward with Allah. Right? The immediate temptations, some of the things that we mentioned are things that are somewhat dealing with yourself and how you perceive things and how you do things. But this fifth one here with this desire is you almost become a victim of yourself, and your strength or your weakness is then ultimately displayed and put there, and you as a human being have to step up really and show your true colors and be aware of who you are. And ultimately this is ending in the high ranking position of Jannah, inshallah. Now we're taking a quick break here just to remind those that are just tuning in right now of the enormous important opportunity that's happening here on CJAM, and your obligation to contribute to CJAM. And right now we are in need of your contributions. We are in need of your financial contributions, not just, hey, I like your show, thanks a lot. We need that as well, but at the same time, it's extremely important to keep shows like the Slam Dunk Show and many other shows constantly going, right? And to have this station constantly being able to stream online and constantly being able to have these on the radio waves does cost money. And without your contributions, this show cannot go on, right? This radio station wouldn't be able to do it without your contributions. And we very heavily rely on the contributions of our listeners to really support the show. So again, as I mentioned earlier, if you are awake right now and you are listening to the live stream, of course, you're able to call us in right now and make the contribution. The phone number to recall is 519-971-3630, and I would be able to take down your pledge information. And if you want to do it the easy way, of course, is that you can go straight to the CJM website, www.cjm.ca, and you can click on, we walk you through it. I believe there's a donate link right at the beginning of the site. Yeah, right there. So as soon as you go to cjm.ca, and I'll walk you guys through it, just so no one has any confusion, you just got to scroll down just a little bit, and you'll have this giant blue box here that says Redefining Radio in Windsor and Detroit. You got donate to CJM or browse the store. Your obligation today is to donate to CJM. Click on there. It'll ask you to do it via PayPal. Go on PayPal, make your donation, put in your credit card information, put in your name, and put in a good amount, inshallah, to keep this show going. And, you'll have a happy host, you'll have a happy radio station, and inshallah, you'll have a radio station that can still go on for many, many years with your donation and with your contributions. So please do that. Again, the number to call if you want to make the contribution on the phone right now, or anytime when you get a minute. If you're driving right now, just remember the phone number is 519-971-3630. And for anybody out of town or even from Detroit, there's a toll-free number. It's 1-855, and I believe it's DIG CJAM. So DIG, and then CJAM. Again, I'll give you the number again just because I messed it up a bit. It's 1-855 DIG CJAM. So that's for out-of-towners, especially for our brothers and sisters in Detroit. So please make the contribution. Again, like I said, it's extremely important that you make this contribution. All the equipment that we have here, this is all purchased by you guys. Everything that's in this place is really a benefactor of your contributions. So please don't forget about us. Please don't ignore us. And please don't let us down. Where we have the goal of 30,000, and we're almost there. We're in the 20s right now. So if somebody wants to call up and just give $8,000 right now, that'd be absolutely amazing, and we would definitely accept that. But if $8,000 is a little too much for you, then we'll settle for whatever else you're able to do. But even if it's $5, even if it's just $10, please make that contribution. We do need it, and we are absolutely grateful for these contributions. So again, going back to what we were talking about relating to the hadith of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, for that, him mentioning that who would be protected on the day when there is no shade and who would be under Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's shade. We mentioned the just ruler, the youth who grows up in the worship of Allah, a man whose heart is attached to the mosques, two people who love one another for the sake of Allah, someone who resists a direct temptation from the opposite gender. And the sixth one that we're going to talk about is someone who is so charitable that they lose track of their charity. And the expression here is that their right hand spends so freely that their left hand does not even notice it. And this habit is not about simply giving when it is convenient or only when certain things and not other things. This is a habit that becomes so much a part of a person's being that it reaches all causes of goodness. And the developmental lesson is in making charity a way of life. that in any opportunity that you're able to give, that you're able to contribute, that you're able to make a difference, that you should spend. And this is in no way a playoff for you to donate to CJAM. But if you were able to make that connection and you were able to realize the benefit of contributing to CJAM and contributing to the Slam Dunk Show, then you're just that much more intuitive than I expected. And the seventh and final is the one who remembers Allah in private and begins to tear, and begins to cry. And this last one is extremely intimate. And many people are able to maintain a stable Islamic personality in the public. In the public, you can have your hijab. In the public, you could have your beard. In the public, you could have your thobe. In the public, you could have your abaya. In the public, you could be the most soft-spoken person, the most calm person, the most patient person. But when they're left alone by themselves, they start to slip. They start to do things that are debatable. And their identity and worship are public affairs, but have not reached the inner depths of the self and where true spirituality lies. And that's why this person, this seventh characteristic is so important. Because this is just when it's you and your Creator, when it's just one-on-one. And the one who remembers Allah when he's alone and cries is the one who has cultivated a truly special and unique relationship with their Creator. That there's nobody around, nobody's reminding you, nobody's telling you something. You don't have to pretend. It's just you by yourself, in your home, or in your classroom, or wherever you are, when you have this opportunity just to self-reflect and to think on the bounties and to be grateful. And when this opportunity happens and you begin to weep and you begin to cry, right? This intimate relationship cannot be explained by words and is only obtained through periods of struggling for His sake. And the developmental goal is to become intimate with Allah and move past the superficiality of common religious discourse, to move away from all the silly talk that's taking up most of people's time, and really just to focus on yourself and really reflect on yourself and really just work to get yourself that much closer, inshallah. Now, that is all the time I have for today. Of course, it is only a half an hour, but it's every single Friday morning. We've been doing this for many years now, and we all need your contributions. Again, like I said, if you want to call in, the number is 1-855-344-2526. That's toll-free from any city, anywhere. You can call that number, or you can call the local number here, 519-971-3630. That's right here in Windsor to make the contribution. And again, like I said, you just got to go to the CJM website, www.cjm.ca. You'll find the Donate Now button. Make that contribution. Donate. We need your money. We need your support. Show your support. Show your love for the show by contributing to cjm.ca. That's all the time we have for today. Inshallah, we'll talk to you again next week. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.